A very pleasant good morning to one and all who are present here. I am Rohita from I2, today here present to speak on the eve of celebrating 75 years of our Constitution, its heritage and its progress. Before I start, I'll ask you few basic questions. So my first question is, what is Constitution? Yes, you are right. You're almost there. Constitution is a set of basic rules which allows for the minimal coordination amongst the members of the society, and it is a living document. And my second question is, what Constitution does to the society? Yes, it allows, Constitution says who has the power to govern the society, and it allows for the government how to rule this country. Coming to the historical background of our Constitution, the origin of the Indian Constitution can be traced in the history of the India under the British rule. There prevailed a political instability in the period of 17th and 18th centuries, and which resulted in the emergence of British East India Company to take over the political power in India. So that resulted the British East India Company to take the political power, but the company's mismanagement of commercial activities prompted the British Parliament to pass a series of acts such as Regulating Act of 1773 and 1784 Pitt's India Act, and 1793, 1813, 1833 and 1835 Charter Acts of India. Later, due to the mismanagement of companies' commercial acts, and with the Sepoy Mutiny in 1857, the Crown of the British took over the responsibility of political administration in India and passed the Government of India Act 1858. And from then, the British Crown took over the responsibility and started ruling India. And a series of acts were made, and from then on, post-British East India Company administration moved towards the decentralization, and many acts known as Councils of India Acts were made. Later, the Government of India Act 1919 was passed, but its provisions were implemented in letter but not in spirit. Later, the three roundtable conferences were held in London in the years 1930, 1931 and 1932. This led to the passage of Government of India Act 1935. And it is the major source for our Indian Constitution. Besides, the Indian Constitution is borrowed from many other constitutions, but it is unique from all the constitutions in the world. It is the only constitution which stayed long for 75 years. For any constitution, 17 years of age is more. But Indian Constitution, however, survived for 75 years, and it is called as the heritage, and it is then known as the heritage of constitutional heritage. And the cabinet mission and the political parties, major political parties at that time took over the responsibility and came over an agreement and constituted the Constituent Assembly in the year 1946. Then many great personalities like Dr. B.R. Ambedkar and Durgabai Deshmukh from our soil itself were the members of the Constituent Assembly. The first Constituent Assembly meeting was held on December 9, 1946. From then on, with the implementation of, with the passage of acts of Government of Independence Act of 1947 and later on, in 1949, the Constituent Assembly adopted the Constitution, and finally it came into force from 26th January 1950. It was the day on which the Indian National Congress, INC, had adopted the resolution of Purna Swaraj, which means the complete independence. It has ever since become the Republic Day of India. Coming to its heritage, the constitutional heritage, constitutional traditions includes the values of democracy, constitutional order, and political system. It also holds the main principles of our constitution, such as justice, equality, sovereignty, socialism, republic, and so on. And the draft constitution had 315 articles and 13 schedules, but the final document of our Indian constitution had 395 articles, 8 schedules, and 22 parts. At present, there were over 400 articles and 12 schedules and 25 parts. And coming to its progress, many constitutional amendment acts were made. For example, the first Constitutional Amendment Act, which talks about the land reforms, and the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act of 1976 is known as Mini Constitution, and the Constitutional Amendment Act of 106th Constitutional Amendment Act, which is historically remarkable change, which brought a historically remarkable change in the political system of India, which allowed for the reservation of women, that is 33.3% of reservation for women in the legislative assemblies of the states and Lok Sabha. Likewise, many constitutional amendment acts were made in order to combat the challenges which occur with the changing conditions of the society, and many constitutional amendment acts will be made further according to the changing necessities of the society and of the citizens of India. But the main principles and the main ideas of the constitution will remain intact, and until now it is remained intact and will be remained intact for centuries. And finally, I hope that every one of us should abide by the Constitution and should be bound to the Constitution and respect its values, its ideas, and follow the rules and regulations as per mentioned in the Constitution, and follow the duties and be aware of the rights we all have. Before I leave, I thank every one of you for being a very good audience. Thank you.